And this is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. We have a special opportunity to talk to a recent graduate of West Point down at Fort Benning now, and that is Second Lieutenant Jeff Reffert, who is class of 2020, is doing a bunch of interesting things as an armored cavalry officer. Jeff, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Ken. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Very good. Well, let's start with you just joined today. A little interesting news that we have some experience with. You just were joined a group called the National Service Animals Monument.
That's
right.
And
to work on a monument and a little bit of a park from the picture we saw. Tell us a little bit about that initiative you just got involved with.
So there has been a lot of talk about a National Service Animal Monument in Washington, D.C. the last few years, but we finally decided to actually pull the trigger on it thanks to Susan Bahari, who is our architect, and she's donating a lot of the sculptures that are actually going to be a part of it. And it's an amazing initiative because it's completely bipartisan and non-political. It's a tribute to the unsung heroes that in American society, as well as military and law enforcement, that just help our community and help our country, namely service animals. We have people with disabilities. We have organizations like Warrior Outreach, Love Hope Ranch, all of these different organizations that involve therapy animals or service animals that are coming together to pay homage to that actual group of unsung heroes that we call service animals.
Well, I know there are quite a few American Legion posts and Sons of the American Legion groups that have sponsored service dogs. We've sat in on meetings about to try to encourage the Department of Veterans Affairs to sponsor more service dogs. This goes back about 15 years for us. And so
amazing
good to hear the value and the benefit provided to veterans from service dogs. So glad you're in on that project. Now, Jeff, tell us a little bit. Now, you're originally from Cleveland and graduated from West Point. Tell us a little bit about your growing up and your experience at West Point.
So I was actually, it goes back to the beginning. I was actually adopted from Russia, believe it or not, at 5 months old. And I was raised in a little town outside of Cleveland called North Ridgeville, Ohio. And I grew up in a very almost utopian fashion. I had the most wonderful upbringing you could possibly imagine. 2 wonderful parents, a brother who is also adopted from Russia, not biological, but I went all through high school. My junior year, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserve as a junior in high school in January of 2014. While I was in high school, I was a pretty basic individual. I worked at Arby's and Wendy's and a local grocery store called Giant Eagle. I ran track and cross country. And then I decided I wanted to give back to the country that gave me a home, and I enlisted in the United States Army Reserve as a human resources specialist. And I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina in the summer of 2014. And came back for senior year and attended monthly drill once a month. And obviously I was on non-deployable status, being still in high school. But my entire goal was to go to ROTC at Norwich. Would you believe that?
Yeah.
And I actually had a run-in with at the time, it was my group commander. And my group commander, Colonel Barger, who's class of 88, who recommended that I attended West Point, and it was hardly on my radar, but we made it happen and ended up going to the West Point prep school because I was not nearly as good in my academic prowess as I have been more recently while I was at West Point, but I darn near failed math my senior year of high school. So I ended up going to the prep school. I loved it, absolutely loved it. It was a great year of development. It was much needed, a great transition, as a lot of us would agree, from going from a high school environment. And I know a lot of the prior enlisted soldiers that also were there with me agreed that it was a good adjustment period from going either from a high school environment to an academy and then going into the 4-year program. while I was at West Point, I was one of the ring and crest representatives for Company H2 towards the end. I belonged to the West Point Fishing Club. I did a few extracurriculars. I was a slug, as they call them, for intramurals. Loved attending Army football games. I like I had mentioned earlier, I still have a special place in my heart for Army football, which is why it's so cool to talk to you today.
When you were there, they played pretty well.
Yes,
not everybody had that experience.
3 and 4 against Navy, but you know,
that's pretty good.
That one hurt. It was my first year that we lost against Navy, and it kind of hurt. We were so pulling for 4 for 4. But I was there when in the 2015 Army Navy game, when we just came so close to winning and then we didn't. And then the 2016 game that we always still talk about as plebes. Oh, there was nothing like it in the world to feel that win and to see the crowd. People were crying. The superintendent was all choked up. It was the Army Navy game of 2016 we still talk about to this day, and we will 50 years from now, I'm sure, at our 50th reunion.
The day you beat the streak of the 14 straight wins by Navy.
Exactly right.
That was terrific. Now, since tell us a little bit about your graduation year. 2020 was the beginning of the COVID period. You were sent home for a couple of months, and then the superintendent was able to figure out how to bring everybody back. A lot of Army resources, medical experience was brought in to create a process to bring you back, and eventually graduation. What do you remember about that spring of 2020, the very difficult start of the COVID period?
You know, Ken, it was an unbelievable time, because I personally, and I know a lot of my classmates did as well, us firsties had left the academy on March 6th for spring leave. That week of leave. Some of us went to AIADs, some of us were trying to go overseas for vacation or to go to Hawaii, etc. And we obviously couldn't they were starting to shut down travel, and especially within the Department of Defense, from what I remember. And with that, we got like a whiff of it while we were that last week at the academy, the last regular week at the academy, and then we all went home. And things started to spike. I remember it was March 12th of that year that we found out that at least my brother's school, who goes to Kent State University in Ohio, he heard that his school was shut down for the rest of the schools around the country started to shut down for the rest of the semester. And we're like, well, wait a minute. And everybody's looking at me like, oh, what's West Point going to do? And we had not heard anything official. So, I mean, we didn't know. There was a lot of unknowns, but I would say General Williams, especially, and General Buzzard, soon to be Major General Buzzard, by the way.
Oh, good.
And I read in the AOG catalog, he's getting his promotion, and well-deserved. The other thing that I remember is just what an unbelievably awesome job that the command team at West Point did, keeping us all informed, trying to calm the waters with as much transparency and clarity as the situation would provide. There was a lot of unknowns. I will never forget attending online courses, waking up in my own bed to sit at my computer at my desk to attend, a state building course with, everybody's on Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever it may be. Mostly it was Microsoft Teams. It was really surreal, because I'm like, I am in my childhood bedroom going through and continuing the courses that we had all of our books and everything were still at the academy.
I wondered about that. I figured that.
And it was like, what are we going to do? It was a culture shock. And I think, as General Jeb, now retired General Jeb, said at the time, we really, really overcame that extraordinarily well. And I would say, I know my class is certainly proud of it. And I know the 3 classes behind us are also very proud of it. But it was just the most surreal thing. And then we wondered about graduation once it approached, and finals week and T week. What are we going to do about that? There was a lot of unknowns, but as those unknowns came, the command team and the staff and the faculty and our instructors, and even each other, we kept each other strong, and we kept each other calm, as it felt like the entire world was just spinning in the opposite direction for a while.
Well,
And
certainly, and you end up having a very
yeah,
memorable graduation out on the
it
plane.
was beautiful.
Hasn't
It
been
was
done in
beautiful, Ken.
decades, and
It
had
was
the president
beautiful.
there. And
It was
what
unbelievable.
was your memory of graduation day?
My memory of graduation day, it was pretty surreal. Again, we were so glad to have an actual graduation. I know Secretary McCarthy at the time was very instrumental in making that happen. He's a great mentor and friend to some of my friends and I now, now that he's out of public life. But
Good man. I enjoyed a couple of
yeah,
conversations.
he was so determined to make sure that we had an in-person graduation. He made sure it was non-political. It didn't become a political issue. And anytime it did, he stomped it right away. That's not what it was about. They made sure, the entire really strategic leadership of the country made sure, as well as the academy, made sure that it was about us. That's what I remember most, is that they made it about us, not the politics, not anything else, just us and our place in history. You really felt like you were a part of something extremely unique, having graduated on the plane under the circumstances. I remember marching out there for the first time. I remember practicing for it the days before, and I made it about 5 minutes into the ceremony before I personally started to choke up. I don't know about my classmates, but I'm pretty sure there was a bet on when Jeff Reffert would start tearing up during graduation. Because West Point still means the world to me. I wear my ring on my left hand. I mean,
Sure.
it's such a part of who I am, and I'm very proud to have graduated.
Absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about you continued to be an instructor right after graduation in the cadet training, and then went down to Fort Benning. Tell us a little bit about your Army service so far, and joining the Armored Cavalry area.
Well, it's been an absolute privilege and honor to serve, particularly having been enlisted first, and to see the other side of the coin on the commissioned officer side. It's a little bit different. I'm still not used to being called sir, even after 18 months. It's been very unique in my case. I know I'm one of the very last classmates of mine still on Fort Benning. I drew a rough card and actually had an April of 2021 Armor Basic Officer Leadership Course date, ABOLIC, we call it, where it's the job qualification, the job school for armored cavalry guys. I had that date long before COVID even hit, so it was just stack of the cards. I tried to get that moved up as much as I possibly and feasibly could, with no avail. So that lasted from April until August. And before ABOLIC, I actually attended the Tank Commander's course, which was a fire hose 2-week course on the tank commander position within the tank. And that set me up for a great success in
When you
phase
say
2.
fire hose, what does that mean?
It was like most people that went through that course had either gone through ABOLIC already or had experience on tanks. And this was supposed to be like a refresher course on stuff that we had already known. However, in this particular class that we had, it was 14 of us lieutenants, and only one of which had been job qualified already through ABOLIC. So it was quite remarkable that they had us get familiarized with the platform, the M1 Abrams tank, and then also on the range to do a like a gunnery simulator session out there, and with no safety violations or anything. It was really remarkable, the quality of instruction from the master gunners of that course. There was about 5 of them. And we all went through that course, and it was a fire hose. We went through that course as if we had already stepped on the platform.
Okay.
And obviously all of us had not. Most of us had not.
Now, I have some friends at West Point are going to say I should know about this already, but what differentiates armored cavalry? Obviously, it sounds like it's more work between the armor and the infantry.
So it's quite an interesting dynamic we have on Fort Benning, because only recently in history did the Armored Cavalry Corps move from Fort Knox to Fort Benning.
Sure.
I think there's still, and I may be wrong, but from what I can gather, there's still a personality adjustment period going on between us. 2 of my roommates here in my apartment are infantry, and we talk, but you could never really you felt like there was still, it was a clash of culture, and then as well as just the difference, the difference in the training. We had very little to actually relate to. I imagine a lot of people could feel the same way, but it's interesting too, though, because at the end of the day, we still remember that we rely on each other. It's interesting and I know at least in our bullet class and in recent, I think it was the last year and a half of bullet classes, at the end of it, they used to do a culminating field training exercise with the infantry bullock and the armor bullock together. That no longer happens. And I know there's been multiple changes since then, but now that has no longer been a thing, I imagine due to a budget issue, but there's very little common ground there, at least from what I've seen. I'm sure other people have had different experiences maybe, and I would hope so, but it's definitely a clash of culture.
Okay. Well, certainly two very important elements of the U.S. Army and two amazing traditions that come together. Now, you got your rodeo shirt on tonight, and you've gotten a new interest you described in rodeo, and you've joined the Military Rodeo Cowboys Association. Tell us a little bit about how you developed that interest.
So it all goes back to March of 2021. At this point, I had been on Fort Benning for about 6 months and some change, even probably closer to 9 months. But essentially what happened, I was going to work 9 to 5 every day and doing PT in the mornings and everything else. But my life started to become this echo chamber of wake up, go to work, come home, do the same thing, wake up, repeat. Weekends, I was into the outdoors. I like to go fishing. I like to go hiking, but there wasn't much there. And I was looking for a new hobby. And essentially what happened was I took up an interest in riding horses, and I had looked online, and there was one on Fort Benning, a stable on Fort Benning that didn't really offer too much. And then I found what's called Warrior Outreach, which is in Fortson, Georgia. It's about half an hour from Fort Benning. And it's a wonderful nonprofit that veterans, service members, and their families get to receive a wide variety of equine related activities. And we also do a lot of music therapy and PTSD instruction and therapy with the veterans. There's also food drives we do anything and everything under the sun really to help veterans and their families. And so when I found this website, I was like, okay, this is interesting. It looks like right up my alley. I found Mr. Sam Rhodes, and Mr. Sam Rhodes and I had actually crossed paths years before while I was at West Point within our inner circles. So it was kind of just one of those God winks to say, this is where you're supposed to be. And so I went, and he's like, yeah, come on out. I told him, I said, I didn't realize this is what you do. And, he's like, yeah, I run this nonprofit, Warrior Outreach, and it's equine. And he's like, come on out. I'll teach you how to ride horses, and you can work with the horses and learn how to do it. And so I did. And the first weekend, and I've been going every weekend ever since. And sometimes even after work during the weeks, I'll go help feed the horses and go tack them up and go take care of them and take care of their feet. And there's something about horses, Ken. I don't know. So for some people it's dogs, but for me, it's definitely the horses, and they have really gotten me through. Yeah, it's extraordinarily therapeutic. And I am a better human being because of those horses. And because of that, I therefore got involved with rodeo stuff, because with the equine activities, I was taken to my first rodeo by my friend Lynn Story. And she said, hey, you should come out and see this. And I did. And I absolutely loved the sport. Oh, my goodness gracious. There was nothing like it in the world. I mean, I had a, piqued interest in football, Army football while at West Point, but it wasn't anything serious where I was going to throw on a set of pads and go. And, I played baseball as a kid, ran track and cross country, but I found this new sport and I was so passionate about it. I personally don't own horses. So, after I had gotten done with this weekend, I said, wow, this is really cool. And I talked to my buddy Burris, who's also a West Point graduate from the class of 98 or 99. And he said, would you ever be interested in entering a rodeo? And I said, well, I don't own a horse, and he said, well, you don't have to. He's like, look up a rodeo school near you. And I found Sankey Rodeo School. And he said, go for it. And so I've been attending bull riding schools and bronc riding schools. I specifically saddle bronc. It's easier on your body than bareback. It's where they have a horse that, comes out of the chute bucking. And bull riding is fairly obvious what that is. But I went to my first school with Sankey Rodeo School, and I just fell in love with it. Yes, it's a very dangerous sport, but there's something about it that just makes you feel more confident in yourself. It's made me a better officer because you have to have the heart and the grit to get in that chute with this animal, this 2,000-pound animal that frankly wants you dead. They want you off their back, and it's a scary thing. If you don't feel like you have a mouthful of cotton balls when you walk into that chute every time, I can name every single bull that I've been just gotten my butt handed to me over the last year or so. And I have them engraved on the back of my belt buckle because those are the ones you remember. And that's what rodeo has really taught me. And I'm looking forward to, through the Military Rodeo Cowboys Association, hopefully going on and competing in the year 2022, the rodeo season then. When I get to Fort Riley, there's a lot of rodeos out in that part of the country. So I'd love to compete once I feel comfortable enough and my training allows.
Well, we've been, we were very honored to attend the dedication at West Point in September of the Buffalo Soldiers Monument.
I saw that. That's so wonderful.
Honoring the African American soldiers who came in from the Midwest to train the cadets on horsemanship. The late 19th century, early 20th century, teaching
Sergeant Matthews is somebody. The man who the statue is reflecting, Sergeant Matthews, my classmates and I at prep school actually had the pleasure of getting to know him fairly well. Yeah, he would be at a lot of the different events that the Red, White, and Blue Club, and I was a part of the honor flight group that we had there. I forget exactly what we called that. But he was a part of a lot of those things. And it was pretty interesting once they put that up, that no surprise, he was a legend then. He was kind of like a Marty Marr kind of figure to us. I was so happy for him and his family that he passed in 2014. Well, no, 2019, 2018. I remember hearing about that. But when I heard that the statue was the likeness of him, I was not at all surprised. He was really a character.
Well, it was a tremendous dedication day, and a couple of Buffalo Soldier organizations, veterans associations came up. They grew from Maryland, came up, and it was a great day and very meaningful. Tell us a little bit about your plans in the U.S. Army. You've got your promotion coming up next week to second lieutenant, first lieutenant. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
What's your future? What would you like to do over the next several years in the U.S. Army?
It's very interesting you ask, Ken, because I will admit, having been here at Fort Benning as long as I have and taking up these new hobbies and realizing that there's so much more out there than just the United States Army, because when you're at West Point, you're engulfed in it, right?
Sure.
If you would have asked me a year and a half ago what my plan was, I'd tell you I'm staying 30 years in the Army and I'm not going anywhere. Now it's really up in the air. I have loved my time in uniform. As long as I find it rewarding and that I'm able to help people, I don't see myself going anywhere. So I'll preface it with that, but I'm also open to other options too. I finally recognized after so long that yes, the Army is important and it's a wonderful profession, but there's so much more to life than just your career and your career path. And that's been a really liberating feeling, to say the least. And I can thank Warrior Outreach, the rodeo, and the horses for that. They really saved me. And when it comes to my plans right now, I'm just trying to be the best darn lieutenant that I possibly can. I'm enjoying my time as a lieutenant. Like I had mentioned earlier, I went to the Tank Commander course in October. I finished the Bradley Commander course. I went to A. Bullock. I am getting ready to PCS to Fort Riley in the next few months, and hopefully we'll walk into a platoon again. Based on my timeline, I've been here at Fort Benning for so long and at such an extended amount of time, and there's only about 4 years of lieutenant time that you really have. But I'm looking forward to really going to Fort Riley and picking up my first platoon and being able to lead and take care of people. I have been taken care of so much in the last year by such amazing people and such amazing leaders that I can't wait to pass that forward and hopefully pay it forward by taking care of others. and, looking at PFC in the eye and saying, I know what it's like to be in your boots. And on top of that, let me help you out.
Well, it
That
sounds
being
like
able to help those people.
you got a lot of enthusiasm for everything that
That's
you
right.
do, and
That's right.
we're really glad that you brought to our attention the Warrior Outreach Ranch in Georgia. What town again is it in?
That is Fortson, Georgia. It's 30 minutes north of Fort Benning.
Okay. Well, that is it sounds like a great project, and you had some photos
Beautiful.
that we saw on LinkedIn and some material, something worth.
Right.
We'll put their website in the captions for this, and also great to hear about the National Service Animals Monument Project. Wish you well on that and the team. We've sort of been down the road on that. It's not easy.
No,
But
it's
sounds
not.
like
It
you
takes a
got
lot of
plan.
heart and a lot of courage, but there's something about it that it just, once you start, it lights a flame and it just turns into a fire. It's a way to test your grit, and it's a way to test your heart outside of military service. And that's been a very interesting endeavor, to say the least.
Okay. Well, Second Lieutenant, soon to be First Lieutenant Jeffrey Reffert, originally from Cleveland, now at Fort Benning, going to be moving to Fort Riley in the not too distant future. Really great to talk with you tonight and hear about the
It's been a
projects
pleasure.
that you're working on and what your service in the U.S. Army has been, the life of a young lieutenant. Taking these courses and learning more about the profession, learning about the equipment, and as you said, getting set to take care of soldiers. Really good to talk with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. I hope we can do it again. We'll stay in touch
Anytime.
and hear more of your story.
Anytime.
Great to talk with you. This is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. We're based in White Plains, New York, and we're always proud to represent the 2 million veterans of the American Legion and the 330,000 members of the Sons of the American Legion across the country taking care of veterans. I'm in White Plains, New York. Have a good evening.